If you picture Hades as a horned devil ruling a fiery hell, you're thinking of someone else's mythology. In Greek myth, Hades is not evil, and the underworld is not simply a place of punishment. He is the stern custodian of a necessary realm, the final destination of every mortal, and his authority keeps God's oaths and human rituals meaningful. To understand Greek religion, law, and the rhythms of life and agriculture, you have to understand Hades. Hades is the son of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, part of the first generation of Olympian siblings, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Poseidon, and Zeus. Fearing a prophecy that one of his children would overthrow him, Cronus swallowed each newborn. Hades spent his earliest existence entombed in his father's belly until Rhea hid the youngest, Zeus, and later forced Cronus to disgorge his swallowed children. Once freed, the siblings allied to unseat the Titans in a generational war called the Titanomachy. From the outset, Hades is not a villain, but one of the rightful heirs to a cosmos in chaos. During the Titanomachy, Hades' role is distinctive. The Cyclopes, ancient smiths freed from Tartarus, armed the brothers. Zeus received the thunderbolt, Poseidon the trident, and Hades the cap of invisibility, sometimes called the Helm of Hades. It is a symbol of strategy rather than brute force. Ancient sources describe Hades using it to move unseen, sabotaging the Titans and tipping critical moments of the war. Unlike Zeus's crackling power or Poseidon's earth-shaking trident, Hades' gift suggests the unseen inevitabilities that govern life and death. When the Olympians finally defeat the Titans and consign them to Tartarus guarded by the Hundred-Handers, a second, equally important settlement follows, the division of the world. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades do not split the cosmos as rewards for virtue and vice. They cast lots. Zeus takes the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the realm beneath the earth. Crucially, the earth itself, our lived world, and Olympus remain common to all. This matters for how the Greeks saw Hades. He is not banished to an infernal exile. He governs a third of creation, necessary and lawful. He rarely appears on Olympus, not because he is unwelcome, but because a ruler's place is in his domain. His authority is absolute there, and even gods respect its borders. What then is that domain? The Greek underworld is complex, not a single cavern of torment. Its entrances are scattered across mythic geography, caves, chasms, and rivers the living might approach but not cross. Hermes, as psychopomp, escorts the newly dead to the threshold. The ferryman Charon takes souls across the Acheron or Styx, provided they have proper burial and the customary coin. At the gates stands Cerberus, the many-headed hound who allows the dead in, but not out. Within, judges like Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus hear cases, but Hades himself is not usually the judge or the torturer. He is the king who guarantees the system. The underworld has regions for different fates. Most souls drift in the asphodel meadows, neither rewarded nor tortured, but continuing in quiet shades of the lives they led. The virtuous and heroic can reach Elysium, a blessed land of ease. In some traditions, there is an even higher prize, the Isles of the Blessed, for those who achieve excellence across multiple lifetimes. The wicked can be consigned to darker places. Tartarus is as deep beneath the earth as the sky is high above it, a prison for monstrous enemies and notorious offenders like Tantalus and Sisyphus. Rivers encircle and cross these lands. Styx, the unbreakable oath of gods. Lethe, whose waters bring forgetfulness. Cocytus, the river of wailing. Phlegethon, the river of fire. And Acheron, the river of pain. These are not just map features, they are moral and ritual ideas. Because gods swear by Styx, divine promises have teeth. Because Lethe awaits, Mystery cults promise memory beyond oblivion. Hades rules this realm with Persephone, and their story frames how Greeks explained both death and the seasons. Persephone, daughter of Demeter, is seized by Hades while gathering flowers, often a narcissus, on a sunlit plain. In many versions, Zeus consents to the marriage, the earth itself opens, and Hades carries her to his kingdom in a chariot drawn by black horses. Demeter's grief is cosmic. She withdraws fertility from the earth, and famine threatens gods and mortals alike. The crisis forces Zeus to intervene. A compromise emerges. Persephone will return, but because she has eaten pomegranate seeds in the underworld, she must spend part of each year with Hades and part with Demeter. When Persephone ascends, the world warms and blooms. When she descends, the earth cools and withers. This myth operates on multiple levels. It defends the legitimacy of Hades' marriage, however troubling the abduction motif is to modern readers, by anchoring it in divine law and cosmic necessity. It explains seasonal agriculture in a society for whom grain and the cycle of sowing and reaping were life and death. And it underwrites the Eleusinian mysteries, a major religious cult centered on Demeter and Persephone that promised initiates a better hope after death. In this way, Hades' story is not just about a god underground, but about how the living confront mortality and find meaning in it. Although Hades rarely leaves his realm, he interacts with heroes and mortals at crucial points in myth. The story of Orpheus is the most famous. Orpheus, a musician whose song could sway trees and stones, loses his wife, Eurydice. He descends alive to the underworld and sings before Hades and Persephone. The rulers are moved, not into breaking cosmic rules, but into crafting a conditional mercy. Eurydice may follow Orpheus back to the light if he does not look back at her until both are out. He looks too soon, and she is taken forever. The lesson is Greek in tone. Even sympathetic rulers cannot unmake the law that separates living and dead. Compassion exists within order. Heracles' encounters with Hades appear on different mythic stages. In one tradition mentioned by Homer, Heracles wounds Hades with an arrow during a battle, and the god goes to Olympus to be healed. Proof that the Lord below is a god among gods, not an untouchable spectre. More famously, Heracles' 12th labor requires bringing Cerberus to the surface. Hades permits it, on condition the hound is overpowered without lethal weapons and returned unharmed. Heracles succeeds and keeps the terms. The scene underscores a pattern. Hades enforces boundaries, but he honors oaths and negotiated conditions. Even a mortal hero can prevail if he respects the law of the realm. Another episode involves Theseus and Pirate House, heroes who rashly plot to abduct daughters of Zeus for wives. Having carried off Helen while she was young, they next attempt the unthinkable, kidnapping Persephone from the underworld. Hades receives them hospitably and then seats them on a magical chair, the chair of forgetfulness, from which they cannot rise. Later, when Heracles descends, he manages to free Theseus, but Pirate House remains bound forever. The message is unambiguous. Transgress Hades' sovereignty, and the punishment is permanent. Even daring has limits. Myths of cunning mortals also graze Hades' sphere. Sisyphus cheats death and shows contempt for burial rites. His eternal punishment, rolling a boulder uphill only to watch it fall, illustrates the moral force of funerary custom. Greeks took burial seriously because proper rites enable passage. Without them, the dead wander unquiet and the living risk religious pollution. The underworld is not just a destination. It is a system that makes the rituals of the living matter. When Antigone insists on burying her brother against a tyrant's edict, the drama turns on this religious obligation, the same one that gives Charon his coin and Hades his due. Because of his domain, Hades carries epithets that reveal how Greeks tried to speak about him safely and respectfully. He is Aidoneus, the unseen one, and Polydegmon, receiver of many. He is also Pluton, the wealth giver, a title that highlights a different truth. The riches of the earth, from minerals to crops, come from below. In art, especially in later periods, Pluton often holds a cornucopia. Calling him wealth softens the dread of his name and reminds worshippers that fertility and death are linked. Fields must be sown in darkness to yield light. His symbols emphasize rule and boundary, the key which locks the gates on the dead, the scepter of a king, the bident, a two-pronged staff sometimes distinguished from Poseidon's trident, and the helm of Hades, lent in other myths to heroes like Perseus. Plants sacred to his cult include the cypress and the white poplar. The narcissus is bound to Persephone's abduction. Animals sacrificed to him are commonly black, offered with faces averted, and libations are poured into pits or directly onto the earth to reach the god below. These details are consistent across Greek practice. When honoring the chthonic powers, you lower your voice, direct offerings downward, and avoid calling attention. Hades' formal cult was less public than that of Zeus or Apollo, but it existed. Certain sanctuaries, like the sanctuary of Hades at Elis, reportedly opened rarely, suggest a controlled reverence. At Eleusis, the sacred drama of Demeter and Persephone carried his presence implicitly, promising initiates a kinder hereafter without denying his sovereignty. There were also oracles of the dead, such as at the Acheron, where petitioners performed rituals to contact shades. In all these, Hades is not a god of personal devotion in the sense of intimate prayers, but a cosmic fact to be acknowledged correctly. Fear and piety live side by side. It is important to emphasize what Hades is not. He is not Thanatos, the personification of death, who appears as a minor deity. He is not the active punisher in the way some later traditions imagined Satan. When terrible torments occur, they are often the result of decisions by the judges, by Zeus, or by the Furies, who avenge crimes against kin and oath. Hades' power is to keep order, to receive, to hold, to ensure that the laws that bind gods and humans, oaths, hospitality, burial, retain meaning because they end in a realm that cannot be bribed or stormed. The fear attached to his name reflects that unbending quality. Even gods hesitate to swear falsely by Styx because they would face underworld consequences. Yet alongside dread is a thread of fairness. Hades is consistent. He honors agreements, as with Orpheus' conditional mercy and Heracles' negotiated labor. He supports a marriage that underwrites fertility cycles for the living world. He accepts all without favoritism. And as Pluton, he is also the guarantor of abundance. Grain rises from the same earth that receives the dead. For a Greek farmer, this was not morbid. It was reality arranged with divine intelligence. Stories about Hades also explore the limits of human agency. You can descend and return only under extraordinary conditions: heroic strength, divine permission, ritual initiation. The strong can wrestle a hound or draw a bow, the inspired can sing, the clever can bargain. But no one stays above the law forever. Even the craftiest are eventually received by the receiver of many. That sober realization shaped Greek ethics. Honor the gods, keep oaths, show hospitality, bury the dead, accept the cycle that grants harvest and demands return. Compared with Zeus' thunderclouds or Athena's flashing wisdom, Hades may seem distant. That is partly the point. He does not interfere in everyday politics or lead armies. He is not at the front of the Iliad or a patron of civic festivals. His sphere begins where public life ends. But his presence saturates Greek culture precisely because every household must plan for funerary rites. Every city keeps laws about burial and impurity, and every oath before a court has meaning only because the underworld exists to enforce ultimate consequences. He is the quiet architecture of the cosmos, the necessary third of a world divided by lot and held together by law. One final perspective comes from language. Greeks often avoided speaking his name directly, preferring titles like Pluton. This is not simply superstition. It expresses a careful etiquette toward a power that doesn't barter. To name Hades is to acknowledge mortality. To rename him wealth is to see life's returns built into death's domain. Between those truths, dread and gratitude, the Greeks found a way to live well under the eyes of the gods. So when you strip away modern images of fire and pitchforks, Hades stands revealed as something rarer, a god who makes the world's promises keep. Born to a generation bound by fear and prophecy, he fights for order, rules a realm that gives meaning to ritual and law, partners with Persephone to set the calendar of growth, and deals with heroes on terms that test their strength and self-control. He is not the villain of Greek religion, he is its anchor, and in a mythic universe obsessed with honor, oaths, and the thin line between human and divine, there may be no role more central or more sobering than the ruler who receives us all and breaks for no one.